Ladies and gentlemen, there's something deeply liberating when a woman finally sees through the layers of social conditioning and realizes the immense power she holds within. The world often operates in a way that silences, undermines, and devalues women. But once a woman begins to recognize her own strength, the game changes both for her and for everyone around her. Heart of every meaningful transformation lies the recognition of one's own worth. For women, this process of awakening is often marked by a quiet yet profound realization that they do not need to seek approval from anyone, least of all from a world that has for centuries defined their roles. When a woman begins to understand her power, it's not just a shift in mindset, it's a full-scale revolution within herself. It's a reclamation of her right to exist freely, to be her authentic self without fear, hesitation, or guilt. Empowerment starts with self-awareness, the ability to truly see oneself for who they are, stripped of the layers of expectation, judgment, and societal norms that have been imposed upon them. When a woman steps into this awareness, it's as if a veil is lifted from her eyes. She no longer seeks validation from outside sources. She realizes that her worth is not something that can be earned, negotiated, or diminished. It is innate. She begins to trust herself, her intuition, her abilities, and her dreams. She understands that her voice matters and that her thoughts and contributions are valuable. She no longer feels the need to apologize for being strong, for being ambitious, or for taking up space. The journey to self-awareness isn't an easy one. It's not a linear path, and it's often fraught with challenges. Women are conditioned from a young age to be passive, to play small, and to suppress their true desires in favor of pleasing others. We're told to smile, to make ourselves agreeable, to shrink when we feel too loud or too big. But this conditioning starts to break down when a woman begins to recognize the truth of who she is beneath all of these layers. It's in that moment of deep self-realization, that she becomes empowered, not because she has achieved something outwardly, but because she finally owns her worth from within. This empowerment is not about boasting or seeking superiority. It's about giving herself permission to exist fully without shame. It's the freedom to express her thoughts, to pursue her passions, to advocate for her needs, and to set boundaries that protect her well-being. When a woman fully understands her own worth, she stops apologizing for her ambitions, her dreams, or even her failures. She starts living her life according to her own values and priorities, not based on the expectations of others. This shift from external validation to internal self-recognition is the key to true empowerment. It's not a fleeting feeling, but a deep, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing who she is and what she's capable of. In this place of empowerment and self-awareness, a woman is no longer bound by fear or self-doubt. She realizes that the world around her may try to dictate her worth, but she knows better. She knows that her value does not depend on what others think of her, but on the unique gifts and perspectives she brings to the world. This realization is the spark that ignites a woman's full potential. It's the foundation upon which she can build the life she truly desires. And it's the energy that propels her toward the highest version of herself. Empowered women are a testament to the strength of the human spirit. They are proof that when we truly know who we are, there's nothing we can't achieve. When a woman figures this out, she becomes unstoppable, not because she's perfect, but because she is fully aligned with herself. And this self-alignment creates a ripple effect, inspiring others to embark on their own journey of self-discovery and empowerment. When a woman begins to awaken to her own power and worth, it is often met with resistance, and not just from herself. It's not just an internal battle, but a societal one. The reality is that the world we live in has been structured around a specific narrative for centuries, a narrative that often positions women as secondary to men. Women have been told in countless ways, both subtle and overt, that their voices are less important, their ambitions should be smaller, and their lives should revolve around others rather than themselves. This structure, whether we recognize it or not, has been deeply ingrained in the fabric of society, passed down through generations. So when a woman begins to break free from this conditioning and starts to recognize her value, it's natural for this transformation to stir discomfort in the systems and people who have benefited from the status quo. In many ways, the very act of a woman stepping into her full power challenges the foundation of these systems. It asks uncomfortable questions about the roles people are expected to play, and it forces others to reckon with the inequalities that they may have never questioned before. But the resistance doesn't always come from large societal forces alone. Sometimes it can be seen in the more subtle behaviors of those around her. People who have grown accustomed to women fitting a certain mold, to women being passive or differential, may resist this change because it disrupts the comfort of established dynamics. There are many who feel threatened by a woman who knows her worth and refuses to back down. This resistance can come in many forms: disapproval, undermining, dismissal, or even outright hostility. When women take up space and express themselves with confidence, others may perceive this as arrogance, as too much, or even as a challenge to their own authority or position. For many men, especially those who have long enjoyed the privilege of being the dominant force in societal structures, this shift can be difficult to accept. The fear stems not from the woman's abilities, but from the challenge to their own status. For centuries, men have been socialized to see themselves as the primary drivers of power, leadership, and success. So when women begin to claim those spaces as their own, when they demand equal recognition, equal pay, and equal opportunities, there is a deep-seated discomfort. This discomfort often manifests as resistance. It may show up in the form of dismissing women's ideas, undermining their authority, or perpetuating stereotypes that women are too emotional, too weak, or too irrational to lead effectively. But resistance can also come from women themselves. Often, women are taught to doubt their worth or to question whether they truly deserve to take up space. Internalized sexism is real, and many women who have been raised in environments where their value is dependent on their ability to please or cater to others may struggle to embrace their own power. There is a fear of being labeled as selfish, demanding, or too much. Women have been taught for so long to put others' needs before their own that it can be challenging to prioritize their own desires and dreams. This internal battle can be just as powerful, if not more so, than the external resistance they face. Resistance to change also manifests in the way society views success and ambition. Women who pursue their goals unapologetically are often labeled in ways that men aren't. A woman who is assertive and ambitious might be called bossy, demanding, or difficult, while a man with the same traits might be lauded as a leader. Society has long held double standards, and these standards can lead to resistance when a woman begins to defy them. The fear of judgment or criticism often holds women back, making them hesitant to fully embrace their own strength. However, this resistance is not a reason to retreat. It's a signal that something important is happening. It's a sign that change is in motion and that the old narratives are being challenged. Resistance, in many ways, is the mark of progress. When something has been entrenched for so long, even the slightest shift will create friction. And yet, this friction is essential for transformation. For women, this resistance becomes a call to action. It's an invitation to push forward, to keep showing up despite the discomfort, and to keep speaking truth, even when it's hard. It's a reminder that change doesn't happen in the absence of resistance. It happens precisely because of it. Every time a woman stands her ground in the face of opposition, she carves out a little more space for herself and for every other woman who will follow in her footsteps. Ultimately, the resistance faced by women in their journey towards self-awareness and empowerment is not something to shy away from, but something to embrace. It is the friction that leads to transformation, the breaking of old molds, and the redefinition of what is possible. The resistance to change is merely a reflection of the impact that these transformations are having on the world, and it is through this resistance that we come closer to building a more equal, just, and inclusive society. The transformation of women from passive participants in the narrative of life to active, self-empowered agents is a journey that requires not just individual effort, but a broader collective shift in societal attitudes. While personal empowerment is crucial, it must be supported by a society that actively embraces and nurtures the changes women are making in their lives. This isn't just about women rising, it's about creating a society where everyone, regardless of gender, can live authentically, free from the constraints of outdated norms, and without the fear of marginalization or discrimination. The need for societal change cannot be overstated. For centuries, women have been confined by rigid roles dictated by patriarchal systems that have shaped nearly every aspect of life, from education and employment to family dynamics and politics. These systems have historically undervalued women's contributions, relegating them to domestic roles or limiting their opportunities for personal and professional growth. Women's voices have often been silenced or diminished in decision-making spaces, and their desires and ambitions have been systematically downplayed or ignored. This inequality has not only harmed women, but it has also held society back from reaching its full potential. A society that continues to operate within these antiquated frameworks stifles the growth of everyone. When half of the population is not empowered to reach their potential, it's not just women who suffer, it's society as a whole. Imagine a world where the contributions of all individuals are celebrated, where everyone has equal access to opportunities, and where each person's dreams and aspirations are valued equally regardless of their gender. Such a world would foster creativity, innovation, and collaboration, leading to a richer, more dynamic society. It would be a world where diversity of thought and experience is not just tolerated, but actively sought after as a means of progress. Yet, the structures that maintain gender inequality remain deeply entrenched. For every woman who stands up and speaks her truth, for every woman who refuses to remain silent, there are forces, both societal and personal, that push back. Whether it's through biased hiring practices, gendered wage gaps, or cultural expectations that women should prioritize others over themselves, these systems continue to limit the scope of what women can achieve. In this context, the journey toward empowerment is not just an individual struggle, it is a collective one that demands the dismantling of these deeply rooted societal structures. The need for societal change also extends to the way women are perceived. Women who express their ideas, who assert their needs, or who take leadership positions are often met with harsh judgment. Society has long conditioned us to view women in narrow, restrictive ways as caregivers, nurturers, and supporters, rather than as independent thinkers, leaders, and creators. This has created an environment where women feel forced to conform to a narrow, predefined mold, and when they deviate from it, they are criticized, dismissed, or even punished. For change to truly occur, we must radically shift the way we think about gender roles. It's not enough for women to just break free of these stereotypes. We need a society that supports and amplifies the voices of women. A society where leadership is not synonymous with masculinity, where ambition is not viewed as an undesirable trait in women, and where women are free to express themselves without the fear of judgment. A society where women's choices, whether they're in the home, the workplace, or in public life, are respected, valued, and celebrated as valid, valuable, and powerful. We must also shift how we think about equality. True equality isn't about bringing women up to meet the standards set by patriarchal systems. It's about reshaping those systems entirely. It's about creating new definitions of success that embrace all forms of leadership and value every contribution equally, regardless of gender. It's about reimagining a world where resources are distributed fairly, where power is decentralized, and where every individual is free to pursue their potential in their own way. For societal change to truly happen, we need to see not just women, but men and all people join this movement. Change is not a one-way street, it's a collective effort. Men must also challenge their own assumptions about gender roles and embrace the idea that empowerment for women is not a threat to their masculinity or success. When men understand that gender equality benefits everyone, not just women, they will become allies in the fight for a more just society. They will recognize that when women are free to lead, innovate, and express themselves without fear of judgment or discrimination, it leads to better outcomes for all. We also need institutions, whether in government, business, education, or healthcare, to take responsibility for fostering change. Laws and policies must be enacted to ensure equal pay, equal opportunities, and equal representation for women in every arena. Employers must create work environments where women are not just tolerated, but supported in their roles, where their contributions are acknowledged, and where their personal ambitions are nurtured. Educational systems must encourage girls to dream big and to see themselves as capable of achieving anything they set their minds to, from the sciences and mathematics to leadership and entrepreneurship. However, societal change doesn't only happen at the institutional level. It must begin at the grassroots with individuals, both women and men, challenging outdated beliefs, standing up for equality, and demanding better from their communities and workplaces. It begins in the conversations we have with each other, in the way we raise our children, and in how we support the women in our lives. It begins with everyday acts of resistance, choosing not to accept inequality when we see it, speaking up when we hear something unjust, and advocating for the voices that are often silenced. One of the most powerful shifts that a woman undergoes on her journey toward empowerment is the realization that she no longer needs to apologize for her growth. For too long, women have been conditioned to shrink themselves, whether it's by being quieter, less ambitious, or by minimizing their achievements in order to avoid drawing attention to themselves. This phenomenon, known as playing small, has been a survival mechanism in a world that has not always made space for women to shine without fear of backlash. However, when a woman reaches a place where she no longer feels the need to apologize for her growth, she steps into a new realm of freedom, one where her presence is not something to be minimized, but celebrated. Unapologetic growth is the ability to expand into your fullest self without feeling guilty, without diminishing your achievements or your desires to make others comfortable. It's about owning your success, your ambitions, and your uniqueness without hesitation or self-doubt. This shift is monumental because for many women, self-promotion and acknowledgement of one's own worth has been seen as a social taboo. Women have been taught, whether explicitly or implicitly, that they should be humble, that their success should not outshine the efforts of others, or that they should downplay their contributions for fear of appearing arrogant or self-serving. This is a cultural narrative that has kept many women from stepping into the spotlight, holding themselves back even when they are capable of so much more. However, unapologetic growth demands that women break free from this false humility. It challenges the belief that being successful or ambitious is somehow at odds with being kind, compassionate, or considerate. Unapologetic growth isn't about abandoning empathy or becoming ruthlessly competitive. Instead, it's about accepting that you can be both humble and confident, both ambitious and compassionate. It's about understanding that you don't have to shrink yourself in order to make others feel comfortable. The power of unapologetic growth lies in its authenticity. When a woman is no longer apologizing for her dreams or her achievements, she begins to embrace all aspects of who she is, her flaws, her strengths, her quirks, her imperfections, and she no longer feels the need to hide them. This shift is an act of radical self-acceptance. She understands that she is worthy of success and recognition, not because of how much she gives or how much she sacrifices for others, but simply because she exists. Her worth is not contingent upon how much she gives away or how little she asks for in return. This freedom to grow unapologetically is one that extends beyond the individual. When a woman fully owns her growth and accomplishments, she paves the way for others to do the same. She becomes a role model beacon of possibility. This ripple effect is powerful. When one woman steps into her full power without apology, she creates a ripple effect that encourages other women to do the same. This is how collective change happens, one woman at a time, showing up fully and boldly in the world, refusing to shrink, refusing to minimize herself. For many women, unapologetic growth also means learning to set boundaries. It's about saying no when something isn't aligned with your values or your well-being. It's about saying yes to opportunities that align with your purpose, even when they feel intimidating. It's about refusing to apologize for taking up space, for having needs, and for pursuing your passions. Setting these boundaries is an essential part of growth because it shows that you value yourself and your time. Unapologetic growth also involves embracing discomfort. Growth is not a linear process. It's filled with moments of uncertainty, doubt, and even failure. But embracing these moments rather than shying away from them is what allows women to continue expanding. It's about understanding that discomfort is not a sign of inadequacy, it's a sign of progress. Every time a woman pushes through her fears, confronts her self-doubt, or faces a challenge head-on, she strengthens her ability to continue growing. This process is uncomfortable, yes, but it's also transformative. Growth isn't always smooth or easy, but it's always worth it. One of the most profound aspects of unapologetic growth is the ability to stand firm in one's own identity, even in the face of external criticism or societal pressures. Women who are unapologetic about their growth understand that not everyone will understand or support their journey. There will always be critics, those who feel threatened, uncomfortable, or confused by a woman's refusal to apologize for who she is or what she's achieved. But a woman who embraces unapologetic growth no longer seeks validation from those critics. She knows that her growth is not for anyone else's approval. It's for her own fulfillment, her own joy, and her own sense of purpose. This type of growth requires tremendous courage. It requires the courage to be seen, to be heard, and to be unapologetically yourself in a world that often tries to tell you who you should be. It requires a willingness to face rejection, to confront biases, and to challenge societal norms that attempt to box women into predefined roles. But the reward for embracing this type of growth is immense. When a woman grows unapologetically, she becomes more aligned with her authentic self, and in turn, she becomes more capable of contributing to the world in ways that are truly meaningful and impactful. Unapologetic growth is also about embracing vulnerability. It's about showing up as your true self with all of your imperfections and being willing to take risks. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness, but in reality, it is one of the greatest sources of strength. When a woman allows herself to be vulnerable, she opens herself up to learning, to connecting with others, and to evolving. She understands that vulnerability doesn't diminish her, it makes her more real, more human, and more powerful. Ultimately, unapologetic growth is about embracing your own power, both the power to succeed and the power to fail, the power to rise and the power to stumble. It's about being fully present in your own life, fully alive in every moment, and owning every part of your journey. This kind of growth isn't something that happens overnight. It's a lifelong process, one that requires patience, persistence, and a deep commitment to yourself. But when a woman finally embraces her own growth unapologetically and without shame, she becomes a force to be reckoned with. And in doing so, she shows the world that growth at its core is not just about achieving success, it's about being true to who you are and allowing yourself to evolve into the fullest version of yourself. At the core of the movement for women's empowerment is the belief that when women rise, society as a whole rises with them. The idea of a better world is not one where women excel at the expense of others, but rather a world where every individual, regardless of gender, race, or background, has the opportunity to live authentically, pursue their dreams, and contribute to the common good without fear of being marginalized or oppressed. A better world for all is one where equity, opportunity, and justice are not merely ideals, but realities that are accessible to everyone. This vision of a better world begins with the recognition that the struggles of women are not isolated from the struggles of other marginalized groups. The fight for gender equality cannot be separated from the fight for racial equality, economic justice, or environmental sustainability. These issues are interconnected, and true progress can only be achieved when we address the systemic inequalities that affect all people. The world we create must be one that acknowledges and celebrates the rich diversity of human experience, and it must work toward the upliftment of every individual, not just a select few. One of the most profound shifts needed in order to create this better world is the dismantling of the systems of power and privilege that have historically benefited some while marginalizing others. These systems are embedded in every aspect of our lives, whether it's in the workplace, the education system, the healthcare system, or the political realm. They are reinforced by centuries of cultural norms, social expectations, and policies that prioritize the needs and desires of a few over the needs and desires of the many. For true change to occur, we must challenge these structures at their core, and we must create a new narrative, one that recognizes the inherent worth of every human being, regardless of their gender, race, class, or background. A better world is one where all people, regardless of their gender, have access to the same opportunities, the same resources, and the same chances to succeed. It's a world where women are not told they must choose between their career and their family, where they are not punished for being ambitious or held back because of their gender. Women should not have to fight for equal pay, for equal opportunities in leadership, or for recognition of their contributions. In this better world, women will not only have access to these opportunities, but will also be supported in navigating the challenges that come with them, whether it's through policies that support work-life balance, educational initiatives that encourage girls to dream big, or healthcare systems that prioritize women's well-being. But this vision extends beyond the realm of gender. A better world is one where every person, regardless of their background, can live free from fear, discrimination, and violence. It is a world where people of all races, ethnicities, sexual orientations, and abilities are treated with dignity and respect. When we talk about creating a better world for women, we must also recognize that women's liberation is bound up with the liberation of all people. The struggles faced by women of color, LGBTQ women, disabled women, and economically disadvantaged women are unique, but they are also linked. To truly create a better world, we must build an inclusive society that uplifts everyone, not just those who fit a certain mold. Economic justice is a central pillar in this vision. Too many people, particularly women, people of color, and marginalized groups continue to face economic inequality that limits their access to education, healthcare, housing, and a safe and dignified life. A better world for all means a world where wealth is distributed more equitably, where social safety nets are robust, and where everyone has access to the tools they need to thrive. This involves creating policies that provide paid family leave, universal health care, and affordable housing, as well as investing in education and job training programs that give people the skills they need to succeed in an ever-changing economy. The political landscape must also change to reflect this vision. A better world is one where women, people of color, and marginalized groups are fully represented in positions of power. This means electing leaders who are committed to enacting policies that promote justice and equality for all, and who understand the lived experiences of those who have been excluded from the halls of power. Representation matters not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of influence, ensuring that the voices of those who have been historically silenced are heard and amplified. Beyond politics and economics, a better world is one where environmental sustainability is prioritized and where the needs of future generations are taken into account. Women, particularly those in marginalized communities, have long been on the front lines of environmental justice. They are the ones most affected by climate change, environmental degradation, and the loss of natural resources. In a better world, we will not only protect the environment, but we will also ensure that those who have been most impacted by environmental harm are given the resources and support they need to thrive. This means addressing the root causes of environmental destruction, advocating for sustainable practices, and creating a world where clean air, water, and land are available to everyone. But the creation of a better world is not just about policy changes or structural reforms. It's also about shifting the way we view each other and the way we interact with the world. A better world requires a culture of empathy, compassion, and mutual respect. It's a world where people are not judged by their gender, race, or any other factor outside their control, but are seen for who they truly are. In this world, people are encouraged to support one another, to lift each other up, and to celebrate the diversity that makes our societies vibrant and strong. It's a world where individuals are empowered to